Hello?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. People are just going to start joining us here now, and we'll get started in the next couple minutes.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Hello?
Good morning. I can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. I was struggling with the access there for a moment.
And confirming that you can hear Public Works, question mark?
I can hear you too, Public Works.
Thanks.
This is
Can,
Jason Poole with Parkhausen. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Hi, Jason. Good morning.
Morning.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Great.
All right. Can you hear me, Andrea?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
And I'm going to promote you to a panelist right now.
Okay, great. All right, let's just give it one more minute before we get started.
Absolutely. And then everybody who's here as an attendee, does everybody right now have permission to speak? It looks like I've got everybody, but I just want to make sure.
Do you want to do a roll call?
Yeah, we can do that. All right. So I've got Dave Douglas.
Here.
I'm going to butcher this name, so I'm just going to say Marson.
Yes, hi, I'm here.
Thank you. Christian Matson.
Present.
Great. Frank Monitor.
Frank is present. The monitor is just for me to see the big screen.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Frank. Jason, I heard you. Joseph.
I'm here.
Thank you. Sorry, more people are joining as I'm doing this, so I'm trying to make sure I get to everybody. Let's see. Mr. Len, it looks like you just came in. Can you hear us?
I did. Yes, thank you.
Great. Jane, I just allowed you to talk. And then Dave Hune, I'm just allowed you to talk. Can you hear us?
Good morning.
Yes, I can hear you. Present.
Great.
Good morning.
Great. So I think based on my list, that is everybody right now who's currently here as an attendee.
Okay, and I think it's just 10 o'clock, so I think we can get started. My name is Phil Alberts, hearing examiner for the city of Lakewood. We are here today for an unusual use permit, number 118, for the development of a temporary trailer park facility. The hearing format today we'll be starting off with Andrea Bell, associate planner for the city of Lakewood, who will describe the project. Once she's finished, then we'll move on to applicant comments. Anyone who's representing the applicant will have an opportunity to speak at that time. Then we'll move on to public comments, and I guess I'll let Ms. Bell explain how the public can participate at that point in the hearing. And once we're done with public comments, we'll jump back to staff rebuttal. That'll be an opportunity for Ms. Bell to answer any questions that were raised or provide rebuttal evidence. And then finally, as a matter of due process, applicant gets final word. After that, I have 10 business days to issue a final decision. And at this point, I'm going to share my screen to show the exhibit list that's on the staff report. And let's see, can you all see that at this point? It should be exhibits that list exhibits A through K. Ms. Bell, is that visible?
Yes, that is visible. I can
Okay.
see it.
All right, great. Now, if anyone has any objections to entry of those documents in the record, please let me know at this point. You can do that either by raising your hand, your virtual hand, that's clicking at the bottom of your screen, or just saying I object. And Ms. Bell, do any members of the public who are viewing have a way of objecting if they want to at this point?
We are technically live on YouTube, so they can interact with us that way.
Okay, how would they do that exactly?
I believe they're able to provide comments there, like in the
Okay.
actual, like the video.
Oh, okay, and are you monitoring that right now?
Yes, I've got it
Okay.
live on YouTube and I don't currently see anything.
Okay, great. Yeah, if anyone has any objections, go, you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and enter your comments on the YouTube site. And we normally don't get objections at this point. We're just dealing with whether or not the documents are relevant to this proceeding or not, and also whether they're authentic. If you disagree with the content, that would be something you would just raise when you have an opportunity to speak. So hearing no objections, then I will admit exhibits A through K identified at pages 7 and 8 of the staff report. And at this point, then, Ms. Bell, I'll swear you in for your testimony. Just raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, nothing but the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
All right, great. Go ahead then.
Great, thank you. Just one moment while I pull up my presentation, please.
Okay. I'll stop my share.
All right. So good morning, everybody. My name's Andrea Bell. I've been the project planner assigned to this unusual use permit for the Emerson temporary trailer parking facility. Bark Housing Consulting Engineers Incorporated, on behalf of EGU Washington Estates LLC, is proposing to use the following assessor parcel numbers, which are 0219221042 and 0219221002, 0219221003, and 0219221034, which are all located on 146th Street Southwest in Woodbrook, as a paved area for temporary trailer parking affiliated with the Maersk Industrial Warehouse Project, which is 0.4 miles away at 7530 150th Street Southwest. Improvements to the site will include grading, paving, storm drainage systems, site lighting, landscaping, security fencing, a small security house, and frontage improvements. The temporary trailer parking facility is proposed to be in place for no more than 5 years from the date of final permit approval. And just to be clear, when we say final permit approval, that will be the actual final sign off on inspections and all work at the end of the project. On September 28th of 2021, the City of Lakewood issued a director's determination under land use permit number LU 2100145 in an attempt to analyze and provide a code interpretation of the applicant's request. This determination found that LMC 18A use tables do not specifically list the proposed activity as permitted, conditional, or prohibited use. However, there are various code sections, when taken as a whole, that can be used to determine whether or not standalone trailer parking is allowed in the city's industrial zoning districts. This interpretation relies on existing definitions and descriptions found in the Lakewood Municipal Code. Based on this code analysis, the Community and Economic Development Department determined the proposed temporary outdoor trailer parking as an unusual use, which should be applied for and processed under a conditional use permit, which is a type 3 application process and requires a decision from the City of Lakewood hearing examiner. Pursuant to Title 18A.30.900, certain unusual uses which are not identified in the Lakewood Municipal Code Title 18A may be allowed by the hearing examiner if such use will have no detrimental effect on other properties in the vicinity. In authorizing uses of this type, the hearing examiner shall impose limits and conditions necessary to safeguard the health, safety, and general welfare of those persons that might be affected by the use. If approved, the City of Lakewood recommends the conditions of approval listed on page 7 of the staff report be implemented in the final determination. And that's what I have for my presentation today, Mr. Olbrooks.
Okay, great. I'm going to share my screen again, just to had a couple of quick questions for you. At this point, Ms. Bell, do you see a kind of a site plan for, well, what was that? Oh, Ms. Bell, do you see a site plan at this point?
Yes, yes, I do.
Okay, and are these, I mean, I'm just having a little trouble deciphering what these 3 lots are, or multiple lots are. Are these the 3 lots we're talking about here?
So I actually have a different exhibit that might provide a more clear aerial image, if that's okay with you. This
Sure,
was
yeah, let's
provided
do
by the
that. Yeah,
applicant.
yeah.
Okay, one moment. Can you see this?
Yes, I can see the staff report right now. Okay, great. There we go. All right.
Yeah, so site C, which is up at the top here, just north of 146th Street. This is technically where the current proposal would be located. In the future, sites B and site A would be developed as industrial, but those currently are not developed.
Oh, okay. So we're only talking about that top parcel, and right now it looks like it's just vacant at this point. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And can you kind of go over what the adjoining uses are there? Because according to the written reports, it sounds like there might be a single family home somewhere. There are apartment complexes. I just wasn't sure from the aerial what's what there.
Yeah, there are some different things that this area has changed a lot recently, and it seems to be changing every day. So based on my current knowledge, I'll try to provide that information.
Okay.
You do have some existing multifamily development that's kind of mixed in with single family. So on some sites that are in the immediate vicinity, you'll have maybe a single family home, maybe a modular home, and then duplexes or something of that nature. So it's all kind of mixed in. There are no single lots, I believe, that just have, single family residence and single family like that. So a lot of multifamily that's surrounding in this area. If you can see, Mr. Olbrooks,
and just for the record, you were pointing to the east side of the project, correct?
Yes, right now for
right,
the east side. Yes. Then if you go south just across the street at 150th, you have additional multifamily that exists there. If you are moving west, then you'll see, I think it says a number 15 there. You'll see a 15. That's also existing multifamily. If you go north across 146 to where you see the numbers like 24, 25, all of those right there, that is multifamily development, as well as some single family that's mixed in together there.
Okay.
And that's primarily what is surrounding this area. However, as you can see, if you move west and then going south, you'll see some new industrial developments that have been developed here. So number 1, number 10, and then just south of 150th, you've got additional industrial development down here.
Okay, so what's directly north of the project site I see? Is that a housing development, or is that multifamily, or what is that?
So this area is actually, I believe, Joint Base Lewis McChord.
Oh, it is. Okay.
think
Are
that's
those
part of the
housing
base.
units though, or do you know?
Yes, I believe those are housing units right here. I think just to the north, you have some different multifamily type duplexes.
Multifamily.
And then
Okay.
above that, you've got like single family type.
Okay, and I know there's landscaping around that. Are those basically, I didn't look at what type of plants they are. Are these plants that are going to be growing to 6 feet, and do they form a pretty much continuous visual barrier? In general, how's that landscaping set up?
Do you mean at the north end of Site
I
C?
guess on all the perimeter of it, yeah.
Yeah, so currently, I would say that there's probably not established landscaping along like the east or west sides of the property.
Okay.
I haven't been to the back side of Site C, but I can confirm that the city of Lakewood will be requiring landscaping and fencing as a part of this project to ease any kind of, aesthetic issues.
Right. Well, that's what I'm asking is what's that going to be? Because there are landscaping plans. I just couldn't tell. I hadn't looked at them closely enough to see. Is the required landscaping going to be kind of some continuous side obscuring wall of vegetation, like 6 feet tall or something? Or what's
Yes,
that going to look like?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be, I believe, a type 5 solid barrier buffer, which is located within our code. This usually is going to be anywhere from an 8 to a 10-foot vegetative buffer, usually trees planted 20 feet on center with a variety of thick shrubs and things of that nature. Also with at least a 6-foot tall fence that's usually required to be like a solid barrier. That can either come in the way of like a 6-foot cedar fence, or it can also be a chain link fence that is like vinyl coated with slats. And I believe just recently we are either amending our code and or we are providing for a director's determination that will be allowing for 8-foot solid barrier fences in this area to help with that issue as well.
Is that going to be the entire perimeter, or where would that be required?
So we would definitely require it on the probably east, north, and west sides of the property. With regard to the front, I'm not sure what the applicant intends there. There will probably be somewhat of a fence in the front of the property. I assume they're also probably have the intention of a gate somewhere as well. At this point in time, they have not gone through design review, so I don't know. Those plans have not been officially approved by the city.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks, Ms. Bell. Appreciate your comments. Let's move on now to applicant comments. The applicants, did you want to say anything? And I think, Ms. Bell, you have all our videos turned off. Did you do that intentionally, or?
I did not, but I can definitely change that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop my screen share real quick.
Okay. Okay, great. All right. And is there, let's see, anyone on behalf of the applicants who wanted to say something at this point?
Yeah, this is Bill Lynn, if I could. I don't know whether I need to be.
I'm trying to
I'm sorry.
turn your video. I'm trying to turn your video on.
Okay, I don't think I'm doing anything to.
No, I think it's my fault.
Okay, no, I wouldn't. I did wear a tie. I want to make sure I get credit.
Yeah, there you go.
Wearing a tie.
Yeah.
If Mr. Olbrooks, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna try to get everyone's videos on.
Okay.
But if you want to allow them to continue to speak, I'm okay with that as I do this.
Yeah, Mr. Lynn, if you're okay speaking just kind of in Wizard of Oz mode, that's fine by me.
Well, that's the only time I've ever been called that.
Yeah.
So our presentation will be brief. I do have a couple of questions for Ms. Bell when she's ready, but just to tell you that this has been a somewhat arduous process, but in the end, I think we find ourselves closely aligned with what the city has recommended. The one limitation is that the city has proposed a 5-year limit on this use. We're asking that be changed to 7. I can explain that and will in more detail in a couple of minutes. The only other comment that we have relates to the public works requirements. This kind of came about in an unusual way because there was a prior SEPA determination that provided for 404,000 feet of industrial buildings on these 3 parcels, A, B, and C. And so when this proposal came forward, the city relied upon that SEPA determination. So we didn't do a separate SEPA review for this project. So these public works comments that came in did not come in through the SEPA process where there would have been some back and forth. Instead, they came up in the, we saw them in the first time for the staff report. So we don't have a concern about them per se. We read those conditions to essentially say that the city has the traffic study that we did before, but that the traffic will be somewhat redistributed. And that's what needs to be taken into account. Specifically, the fact that it will be, for the most part, going to and from this nearby warehouse building as opposed to directly out to I-5, as it would be were it to be developed with warehouses. So I've got a couple little notes about how I would ask that the conditions on traffic be revised. But otherwise, we just really want to talk about the time limit. I see we're not shared yet, so I'm assuming Andrea is still occupied.
I'm here, Bill, but unfortunately, I think I may have set up this webinar to not allow video, and
Okay.
I haven't had that problem before, but I do apologize. I don't think I'm going to be able to turn the videos on.
I don't think that that's going to be an issue from our perspective. It's so let me just go ahead with a couple of questions for Andrea, if I could, and then I've got one witness, Dave Douglas, and then we want to go back eventually to that exhibit that you saw a few minutes ago with the development in the area. But I just have 5 or 6 questions for Andrea. If I can do that now, I would appreciate it.
Sure, go ahead.
So, Ms. Bell, the aerial photo that you had up there showed a bunch of large industrial buildings. Have those all been developed over the last 5 years?
I would say so. Yes, I believe. I can't recall exactly when. Let me share that screen if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Can you see everything?
Yes.
Yes, I can't quite see the lower buildings, but I don't know that that's important. Yeah, there we go. Better. Thank you.
Great.
So,
yes,
like buildings that are 1, 10, 18, and 2 are all recently developed, correct?
yes, I believe they have been.
And is this whole area zoned for industrial use?
For the most part, a majority of this area is zoned as industrial. We have a couple outlying parcels. For instance, like west of parcel C up top, some of that area is zoned multifamily. And we also have some multifamily and residential zoning that is to the east of Woodbrook Street, which runs right here next to Building 18.
Okay. And you indicated that the business to be served by trailer parking on Lot C is within 0.4 miles. Is that building that's marked 2 down at the bottom of the screen?
Yes, that is our understanding.
Okay. And didn't this, I'll tell you, and you know, there were 2 proposals for trailer parking, one on parcel C and one on parcel 2 down on the lower left-hand corner, the southwest corner. They were both appealed, and at one time the hearing examiner knows there was an effort to consolidate those, and those are on hold at the time being. As it turned out, lot 2 at the bottom left is actually going to be used for trailer storage, is it not?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay, and it's also going to serve the building on the other 2.
I believe it's supposed to serve building 1 as well as building 2.
Okay, but and so can you tell the examiner on what basis that was allowed, even though those are not contiguous, or they're not adjoining parcels?
So it's my understanding, and I wasn't necessarily a part of the permitting or the director's determination where this all came to fruition. So I'll speak on just the knowledge I have, but it is my understanding that lot 2 is technically considered, so lot 2, not building 2 here, but lot 2 is contiguous to sites 1 right here, as well as site 2, right, or building 2 right here. And so the fact that it was a contiguous parcel, our director and community and economic development were able to make findings that they were able to use this as an accessory for the trailer parking.
Okay, thank you. And then very briefly on traffic, there was a SEPA determination issued for buildings on industrial buildings on parcels A, B, and C.
Yes, there was a SEPA determination that was issued for that. I apologize because I don't know the exact date, but it was a few years ago.
Okay, and that included a traffic analysis?
Yes, there was a traffic analysis that was provided at that time.
And is that the SEPA that the city relied upon in processing this permit application for an unusual use permit?
We utilized it. Yes, we did utilize it. Technically, because the use of building or the use of Site C was changing, it was the intent of community and economic development as well as public works engineering that we would need a different traffic impact analysis or, traffic generation analysis in order to process it for this unusual use permit specifically.
Okay. And in the file, I'll get you the exhibit. I think it's got an exhibit number, which is I. There is a traffic analysis that was done, maybe in connection with the. No, it actually says it's in connection with parcel C, that has some traffic generation information.
Would you like me to pull that exhibit up?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Ms. Bell, before you do that, you might have done this, but I don't recall. Could you identify where what the document we're looking at right now, where that comes from?
Yeah, so this was actually provided to me by the applicants. This is probably something, Mr. Olbergs, that we should include as an exhibit into this project. This is an aerial view of the Woodbrook neighborhood and the existing development, proposed development, whether that be industrial or what have you.
Okay, any objections to entry of this document as Exhibit L? All right, hearing none, seeing none, let's put that in the record. And Ms. Bell, if you could email me that document, that would be really helpful. Thanks.
Absolutely, and it looks like we do have a raised hand right now by Joseph. Please go ahead and speak.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time to bring it up, but if you're going to enter this as a document, there's a few clarifications to your description of it that should be made.
Okay. Well, yeah, why don't you just make those clarifications now if you want, sir. And what's your name for the record?
My name is Joseph Al-Hadif, and I'm the developer through the Benaroya Company.
Okay, and how do you spell your last name?
Project. A-L-H-A-D as in David.
Okay, and let me swear you in. Do you swear affirm
Sure.
tell the truth, nothing but the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
So, Ms. Bell, if you could put your you can't see my cursor, right?
I cannot, no.
Okay, if you could put your cursor up on 22, 23, 24, and so on, area right there. First off, in the back of it, which be to the north, there's a wetland, there's a lake up there. And so all of those properties have some other restrictions on them. Also, they are all in the process of getting in an early development phase. So all the buildings are going to be torn down there. And some of them are already. A lot of it is already fenced off for construction and demolition use. And then if you could put your cursor on, let me see, number 10. No, not building 10, site, I think it's site 10. Just to the, just next to our site B.
Oh, it's
There.
either 15 or 16.
Oh, I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
think that's
I
16,
can't read it very well here, but that site. So that site, I think you identified it as a multifamily. It's actually a trailer park. Okay. And then just north of that, across the street, also a trailer park. Let's see. So that's some clarification. And I'll also state, while you have me speaking, that our site C will be fully secured. This is a secured site. So we will have fencing, we'll have gates, and we will have landscaping all the way around in order to protect the trailers that would be placed on the site from vandalism.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. That's very helpful. And as I said, we'll admit this as Exhibit L. It's the Woodbrook neighborhood, Lakewood, Washington, existing and proposed development aerial photo. All right, Mr. Lynn, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions for Ms. Bell. But I do have a question. I have some questions for Dave Douglas, who I'd like to call as a witness.
Okay, Mr. Douglas, are you there?
Yes,
Okay, let me swear you in. Just raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, nothing but the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
All right, great. Go ahead.
Mr. Douglas, would you explain tell us your name and address and how you've fit into this project?
My name is Dave Douglas. I live at 3403 North 18th Street in Tacoma. I'm one of the listing agents for the Emerson Lake Business Park. I work with NAI Peterson Properties, and we have been engaged by the property ownership to do the marketing on parcels A, B, and C, which we refer to as Emerson Lake Business Park. We've been working on that project, I think now a little over 3 years.
Okay. And so were you involved in the project that I mentioned earlier where there were 3 buildings proposed, one in each of the 3 lots?
Yes, that's what I refer to as Emerson Lake Business Park.
Okay, and is it still the ultimate plan of the owner, as you understand it, to develop 3 buildings on those lots generally as described in that earlier proposal?
It is. And the thing that we have been waiting to finalize before starting construction with any of the buildings is a commitment from a tenant to lease the finished space.
So that the building would be built in accordance with a tenant's specific needs.
Tenant specific need, but also looking at a pre-commitment so that we can deliver a more affordable product to the end user. We
Okay.
have been doing site studies and reviews and have had interest from different parties over time, but we haven't been able to finalize a lease for a building. In the marketing efforts, Christian Matson from Leon Associates approached us on behalf of Damco to ask if they could use parcel C for trailer parking, and we checked with the city. And when I talked to Ramon Rodriguez on email, and he corresponded back saying that outside storage and trailer parking were allowed in the zone. So we then moved forward to lease proposals, documented an agreement with Damco, and in May we prepared a lease which was finalized. That is contingent upon getting the use permit for parcel C approved.
And Dave, when you say Damco, where is Damco located? They're the party to whom the trailer parking is requested, or for whom it's been requested.
They're in the Black Creek project, which is labeled here as Building 2.
Okay. And so they approached you, you contacted the city and had email correspondence with the city about the proposed use?
Correct.
And at that time, did the city mention a conditional use permit process or a unusual use permit process, or what did they say about the use?
The initial response back from Ramon stated that, I will read it. Pursuant to Lakewood Municipal Code, he gave a code reference, commercial industrial land use table, outside storage is allowed as a permitted use within the IBP zoning district. And then he pasted into the email a section of the code.
Okay.
And it was based upon that we began to negotiate the term sheet and final lease document with Damco.
And what is the term of the Damco lease?
5 years with a 2-year extension that the tenant can exercise.
Okay. And what happened after that in terms of trying to permit the proposed use of Lot C?
we began to submit, I believe it was submitted in June, the civil package, and June 11, we got some feedback from the city, and I had telephone calls with Becky Newton, and she responded back to me that on an email that the application that was submitted showed the need for the use as an accessory to the building. And because the interpretation was that this trailer storage should be an accessory use, the city at that point thought that the accessory use had to be on the same parcel of land. In other words, we had to have a building structure on the property. We did have a structure planned, which was a security guard shack. I think it was about 1,200 square feet, but that was not, I believe, what the city at that point interpreted as an acceptable building structure to allow the trailer parking to be deemed accessory.
So by the time you got this interpretation from the city, the drawings, the engineered drawings had gone into the city, and you had a signed lease for up to 7-year term, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So and just the last issue, I mean, obviously you can look at these aerial photographs and see trailers stored around. Could you just tell the examiner what your experience has been of late with respect to the need for trailer parking associated with these industrial uses?
Across the entire market, you're seeing more and more demand for trailer storage and trailer parking, and functional facilities today that the tenant market requires really do need additional parking stalls to accommodate the trailer and tractor storage and maneuvering. You're also seeing quite a bit of employee parking that is required, particularly when you get to fulfillment centers or transload facilities.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have for Mr. Douglas. The examiner has some, or staff.
Yeah, Ms. Bell, did you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions at this time, but the city would like to emphasize that we are in support of the 5-year term as it is stated in the staff report, and that an extension can be considered, but would be part of a like land use modification permit or additional conditional use permit.
Okay, all right. All right, no, I don't have any questions myself, Mr. Lynn. Keep going.
So I just have a few comments, and then I will conclude. There are other people on the line, both from the owner's representatives and representatives of the tenant. I'm not sure if I'll leave it to them to decide if they have anything that they want to offer. Just two things about the term, and then one thing about traffic. With respect to the term, we don't see anything in the code that really supports any kind of a limit on time. We described it in the application materials as a temporary use, and it is, but we didn't associate any time with that. We don't think a time limit is necessary for the reason that we don't think this is out of character at all with the area. There's trailer parking all over, and will continue to be trailer parking all over this industrial area. Buildings are larger and smaller. The corresponding trailer parking is more or less depending on the use, but there is a need for it, as evidenced by the fact that Damco has not only requested this parcel, but also is already using that parcel 2 in the southwest corner. So we don't see how anybody could conclude that trailer parking is out of character in any way, certainly to the extent that some time limit is needed. It's not supported by the facts. It's not supported by the code. And in this particular case, the facts argue against it because this applicant was advised that the use was allowed outright, committed to the lease, committed to the engineering that went into it, and then only later found out that there was this new interpretation that the city had made. So we don't think that the 5-year limit is necessary, and we certainly don't think anything is going to happen between year 5 and year 7 that warrants a whole new land use process. I would ask that the examiner take notice of the appeal that we did file on this property, and you'll recall that appeal was placed on hold while we went through this process. I noticed that the city has included in the staff report its determination that led to our appeal, so we think it's only appropriate that the appeal be included as well. And the reason I'm asking that it be considered is that it goes through fairly extensively the other uses that are permitted in this zone, and we think supports the conclusion that this use is fully consistent with what's expected and allowed in this zone. Finally, on traffic, the traffic notes from the Public Works Department appear to request a different or an updated traffic analysis that really focuses on distribution of the traffic within this area, because the traffic from Lot C would have gone largely to the west were it to be built with a building, and whereas now it will circulate somehow within this area to and from the building on Lot 2. So that's a legitimate request. We do ask that 2 things be noted in your decision should you approve this, and should you impose that condition. One is that it would be that the analysis would start and not repeat the work that was done in the original traffic study and the original SEPA. And the second relates to the final note on the Public Works comments, which basically says the applicant will be required for any upgrades needed along the transportation routes. We just want to make clear that should be based on legal principles. In other words, this is not an invitation and an acceptance of any improvements that the city might want, but rather it would continue to be limited by all those principles that we all have to apply in deciding what mitigation is required and what's not. So with those 2 caveats, we would agree that the Public Works comment can and should be added. That's all I have. Again, there are people on the line that I don't want to cut off. You've heard from Mr. Al-Hadaf. I think there are other representatives of the proposed users that are on the line as well.
Okay, just a couple things before we move on. Just if the city's Public Works is on the line, I'd love to hear their response to Mr. Lynn's request on the traffic analysis about avoiding any duplication of past work. And then Mr. Lynn, can you identify maybe a little bit, just provide a little more information on the appeal so I can get that formally admitted as an exhibit? Do you have the date that it was filed or something that we can?
I will get that before we sign off. I don't know that it was.
Okay.
The appeal, the determination was dated 9/28/21.
Okay.
But I'll get I think there was probably assigned an appeal number, and I'll find that while we're on the line here.
Okay. All right. Great. Let's get that in there then. All right. Let's go on to the next applicant's representative. Anyone else want to add to the comments, Mr. Lynn? See, I thought I heard someone kind of beeped or something, but Ms. Bell, are the other participants muted at this point, or?
No, I gave everybody the ability to speak, so everybody
Okay.
should be able to speak if they want to. We do have our Public Works Engineering on the line. Frank Sawatsky is available if you have questions regarding traffic.
Yeah.
And then I would also like to point out that the director's determination, which Mr. Lynn was referencing, is included as an exhibit. I believe, I don't know exactly which exhibit, but it might be K. It's not necessarily the appeal, but the revised director's determination that came after that appeal.
Right. Okay. Let's going back to the applicant team. If anyone from the applicant team wants to say something, now's your chance. All right. Not hearing any takers, then let's move on to public comments. And Ms. Bell, maybe if you could identify how members of the public could participate at this point, and that, of course, would include people watching this on YouTube.
So at this point in time, if there was anybody watching on YouTube, again, they would technically be able to try to make comments, but we also provided the Zoom link information as well as a dial-in number that they could utilize to make comment. At this time, I don't see any members of the public. I just see people who are associated with this project.
Okay, all right. And just in case, this is what I do for all hearings, in case someone is trying to make comments and is unable to because of technical reasons, your internet isn't working on your side, or you just can't figure out how to get involved, we'll leave the record open till 5 p.m. tomorrow for emailed comments to Ms. Bell. And if anything does come in, then of course I'll give the staff and applicant a chance to provide a written response to that. Ms. Bell, do you have an email address you can share at this point for persons who might not be able to figure out how to participate?
Absolutely. My email address is abell, that's B as in boy, ELL, at cityoflakewood.us. And you can also call me if you have any issues. And my direct city cell phone number right now is 253-370-3400.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ms. Bell. All right, seeing no members of the public want to participate at this point, I think we'll move back to staff rebuttal, and now would be the good time for Public Works to address Mr. Lynn's comments about the traffic report if they can.
Great, thank you. Yes, Frank is on the line, and Frank, please go ahead and speak.
Yeah, and Frank, could tell us your last name, how to spell it, and then let me swear you in.
Good morning. This is Frank Sawatsky. The last name is spelled S-A-W-A-T-Z-K-I.
Okay.
And I am the Public Works representative.
All right. And do you swear affirm and tell the truth, nothing but the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
Okay, great. Go ahead then. Thank you.
Regarding Mr. Lynn's concerns, I do believe in building on what is already there. There's no need to start all over from scratch. We have a general concept. We have a plan for traffic flow throughout the neighborhood. The challenge is that this particular parking lot will break up the major flow circle, and I suspect it's going to redirect traffic down Spring Street. So I would want I would want to do an analysis of the two intersections, 146th and Spring and 150th and Spring, because this will bring traffic from different directions. So let's find out if that's going to be the route and find out what the impact is. All requirements will, of course, be based on code. I'm not allowed to just invent things. And of course, you'll be quoted what the code is. The reference to improving the roadways is that 146th Street, which is the east-west street between Lot C and Lot B, has segments that have not yet been brought up to standards from their original 2 inches of asphalt. But it's only short segments. So if we decide that the traffic is best to flow west from C along 146, then we need to fix that section of road that is going to flow across. It has already been improved on the north side of building number 10. So that just leaves the area north of lot 15, the multifamily residential, that would need to be fixed there. If we decide the best way for your traffic to flow would be to the east of lot C, then we'll have to look at those streets and determine where it needs to be repaired. But we do not believe in overburdening. Countering that, we do believe that each person, each industry, each developer does their fair share based on the impacts that they bring into the community, and that is per our code.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Swarovski. Mr. Lynn, did you have any questions of Mr. Swarovski?
And no, I do not. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks for your testimony, sir. All right, anything else from staff at this point?
No, I don't believe anything more from staff. Mr. Lynn did just send me the appeal information, which I can forward to you, Mr. Olbrooks.
Okay.
And the last thing that I think staff would just like to say is that the city is looking at this more under a use standpoint as opposed to character of the area, because the use is not necessarily spelled out in our code, which is why we decided to proceed with this unusual use permit. This department does not necessarily feel as though outdoor storage is appropriate in terms of a use classification. And so we would just like to make that last statement.
Okay. And why exactly, I mean, does it make a significant difference that it's 5 years as opposed to 7 years? Is there any reason why staff is really wed to the idea of 5 years here?
I believe that when it came to conversations that our department director and planning manager had with the applicants when they were considering this as a temporary use, is that anything beyond the 5 years would possibly lead to something more permanent. Mr. Lynn is correct that there is not necessarily anything in our code where it specifically says a temporary use is 5 years and less, and that's it. It's just my understanding that that term was the amount of years that was discussed. Unfortunately, I wasn't part of those discussions, but that's my understanding.
I mean, does the city in other temporary situations typically impose 5-year terms? Or I'm just kind of curious if by analogy, we can say 5 years is what the city, normally construes as temporary.
This is the first situation we've had when it comes to this type of use and placing a term on it.
Mhm.
We have had other temporary uses, like for instance, we have temporary use permits and things of that nature that the city can process, and those have terms associated with them, like 45 days, 90 days, things of that nature. We've had other temporary uses that aren't necessarily spelled out in the temporary use code that could have other characteristics that aren't necessarily industrial. It could be commercial or something of that nature, where we have placed terms on them. Those are few and far between. And I don't think that there is necessarily a standard we've set where we say, an industrial use would be 5 years, or commercial use would be 2 years. This would be 90 days. The only term we have spelled out in our code is in our temporary use permits. And that is, I think right now, I believe 45 days in any 90-day period.
Okay.
And so that would not fit obviously for this circumstance.
Okay. And then you mentioned you have the appeal information. What's the date of that appeal and the file number?
So it looks like the date, would you like the filing date?
Yes. Yeah.
The filing date is October 8th, 2021.
Okay.
And we don't, to my knowledge, they have not technically assigned like an actual appeal number to this.
Okay.
I apologize. It looks like I do have something with your signature here, and I can send this over to you right now.
Well, that's fine. So we'll just say this is the, what was the date again, Ms. Bell?
October 8th, 2021.
Okay, the October 8th, 2021 appeal of the revised director's determination for LU 21-00145. Any objections over entry of that document? All right, so just raise your virtual hand or say I object. Seeing none, that's admitted as exhibit M then.
I do have 2 participants with raised hands.
Well, I see one was Mr. Sawatsky. I'm assuming that was, well, Mr. Sawatsky, did you have something you wanted to add? No, okay. All right, and let's see here. We'll go back to Mr. Lynn then for final comments.
I do not.
Okay, and the raised hands were lowered, so I guess, did anyone else want to say anything? Okay, hearing, oh, let's see, I got somebody with the raised hand now, Mr. Sawatsky again. Do you want to say something, Mr. Sawatsky? No, okay, sorry, I keep getting a hand going up and down here, but I think we're done with comments, so I'll go ahead and close the hearing, and got some really good useful information this hearing. It's been a very productive hearing, and I'll be having the testimony transcribed. It sounds like really the major issue is simply whether it should be 5 or 7 years, and I think that it sounds like Public Works and the applicant are on the same page in terms of the traffic analysis, and I'll revise the condition as necessary to meet that mutual understanding. I think beyond that, it's pretty easy to approve this, and I'll get that approval out within the next 10 business days. So appreciate all your participation today, and we are adjourned for this morning. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Mr. Olbrooks.